So today what we're going to talk about is just some basic functionality about TouchStone in general. And then mostly we're going to get into the 4 key functions. That's going to be the topic of today's session. When we discuss one of the topics, I'm going to show technically how to run and operate the 4 key functions and all the features and functionality that exist. And then I'm also going to talk about strategically, like what to be thinking about and methodologies for creating your 4 key functions. And then we'll always end with what I call the process of the week. So I pick processes from our library, and I'll show you those processes, highlight those, and talk about how you can implement and use them inside your TouchStone account. So what you're looking at now is called the dashboard. And when you or anyone you've set up as a user logs into TouchStone, this is what you're going to see. If you log into your TouchStone account and you don't see a control panel like I have here, or this section called Management Review, all that means is you haven't set that up yet. So it doesn't mean something's wrong. It just means that you haven't created a control panel. So here on the dashboard, the purpose of the dashboard is to allow employees access to their processes. So that's the main purpose of the dashboard. So through a control panel like this one, if I'm the manager of admin finance, I would click my control panel and then I would see all of the processes that I'm accountable for. These processes are derived from the job descriptions here on the org chart. So when I want to access my processes as the manager of admin finance, I might do that just to remind myself of how to do something. Sometimes processes are on demand, or they're done once or twice a year, or even once a month. And as we all get older, we forget how to do things sometimes. So I might come here to remind myself of what to do. If I'm a new employee, I may come here to view my processes for training purposes. So I might be going through each one of these and studying them and memorizing them and learning how to do my job, basically. I may come here if my manager asks me to. So maybe I'm doing something incorrectly, or I've missed an accountability, or I've missed a step, or I forgot to turn in a form, or I filled out a report wrong. So a manager may say to me, hey, go to the dashboard, look at that process and just study it and remind yourself because you missed this piece of it. And so I want you to just make sure that you get it next time. So there's a variety of reasons that people would come here to access their processes. If you're a manager, you may come here to review your employees' work. So that's what this section is about. So because I'm the manager of admin finance, I have what's called management review for these positions underneath me. So I can go to any one of my employees here and review the work they're supposed to be doing. I can build and create those processes. I can manage those employees with the processes. Because I have management review for these people, I can go over here and run reports of what they're doing inside of TouchStone. So on the dashboard, the important thing to remember is this is where you use, implement, and manage processes. At the last session, which is session number 7, we're going to have a complete training on this. In addition, you're going to see me refer back to the control panel probably in every session, kind of showing people how what we're discussing is relevant to the dashboard. In the upper right-hand corner of the screen, there's, first of all, this button right here called Resource Center. So when I click the Resource Center button, it takes me to the TouchStone Help Desk. So no matter what kind of user you are, when you log into your TouchStone account, or any employee does, they're always going to see this Resource Center button in the upper right-hand corner. And when you click it, you can see it opens in a second window right here. So the Help Desk or the Resource Center has step-by-step for anything and everything you'd want to do in TouchStone. So right here in the User Guides area, there's an outline of every part of TouchStone, and then when you click on this, it takes you to a step-by-step and sometimes even a video like this one. So also you can search the knowledge base for what you're looking for, and then it'll pull you to the user guide area and give you the step-by-step for what you're searching for, and even sometimes little videos. There's strategy webinars here in the webinar section. This is just ways for you to learn more about TouchStone. There's a video section that has getting started videos if you're brand new to TouchStone, how-to videos. There's also this section called Process of the Week. Inside of the line here, so this is the different subjects of the Process of the Week videos. When you click on those, like Guiding the Business here, you're going to see a whole list of topics. These are short little 10-minute videos at the most, which talk about how to implement and use library processes. So this is like the one-on-one meeting process. You can download that from our library, and you can watch a little video on how to use it. And there's a lot of these videos. So if you have downloaded a library process and you just want some more information on how to use it, then you can go to these videos. Just a couple more things here. There's this button called Support Plus. This is a quick way to get a hold of us. You can hit Contact Support and then fill this support form out and hit Send, and then someone will get back to you and answer your question. You can fill this Contact Support message out if you just need help with something. Training's always free. So if you having an issue, you want someone from our team to look at something you've done in your account and just give you some feedback, just send us a quick message and someone will get back to you. Also under Support Plus here, you can register for the weekly drop-in calls if you haven't heard about those. The weekly drop-in calls are meant to be more interactive than this session. There isn't exactly a fixed topic that you're going through like we do in the technical training series. You may hear other people asking questions. You can bring questions. Sometimes it's just an interactive discussion about something in TouchStone. And then other times, if people don't have questions, whoever's running this will just launch into a training topic. So if you register for this, it's the same as the technical training series. You get an email, you can show up or not show up. And then here is where I was referring to if you have another employee or anyone else that you want to join this session, you want them to get a reminder, you can just send them here to register. So I'm going to close this out and go back to TouchStone. Also, all the way in the upper right-hand corner of your screen here, this little person icon, when you click this, it's going to show you your username and give you access to your password, so right here. So if you want to reset your password or remind yourself what your username is, that's a quick way to get to that. If you're an administrator, then you're going to see this little wheel icon right here, which is called Account Administration. If you don't see this wheel icon, then it means you're not an administrator. But if you are and you do see it, this can take you to the admin area in TouchStone. So this is where you set up your users for the system. You create user names and passwords. This is where you assign control panels right here, where you set user access. There's a whole series of things that happens here in account administration, and we're going to have a session just going through this specifically. If you do have questions about setting up users and how to restrict access and things like that, go to the Resource Center because there's a lot of information in there about that. One thing I just want to point out here before we move on is in 2020, you have unlimited users. So it's a gift or something we've decided to offer to all of our TouchStone users during this difficult year for everyone. Because you have an account in 2020, you'll never pay more for adding users to your system. So if you've been wanting to set people up with control panels or give them access to TouchStone and you haven't done that because you didn't want to pay for more users, now's the time to go and just upgrade your users right here. And there is money here associated with this, but this doesn't pertain to anyone. You can upgrade to whatever level you want, and you're never going to pay more. So I'm going to go back here to the dashboard. So here on the dashboard, if you look to the left-hand side, which is right here, this is the navigation. And from this left-hand side of your screen, you can access your 4 key functions. You can access your org chart. You can run reports. Reports are going to search for things that have been completed in the control panel or in the management review. So that's what the reports are about. And then this search button allows you just to search for processes or work plans or checklists, anything that you want to see if it's been lost, or I'm sorry, if it's been lost, if you've forgotten where you put it, or if it exists, you can type in the name in the search and then find where it is. So I'm going to go here to the 4 key functions, and then I'm going to click on guiding the business. Oops. So now we're in the 4 key functions. What the 4 key functions is about is it's a place where all of your processes are listed. So every process that you would ever have in your system is on the 4 key functions in one place or another. The 4 key functions is like an outline. If you think of your business as a whole, like you're looking down on it from above, like a landscape, and you imagine it this big circle, say, and then you cut it into 4 parts. That's what the 4 key functions is. The 4 key functions gives you a way to view your process or your business as a set of processes. So if you're a manager or even an employee, but particularly if you're the business owner, think about your business as a series of processes that are identified and then all run and work together. If having this ability to kind of relieve your mind of the people and the personalities and everything that maybe you viewed your business as of to this point, and view it as a series of processes that all run and work together. It's like this machine with wheels and connections. And that's what the 4 key functions gives you. It gives you this objective view of the business in a really practical way. All it is a series of processes that people are running and operating that work together and that produce results. If you see your business like this, sometimes even for the first time, or your department, it gives you a level of control that maybe you haven't had before. So what I mean is, if I can view my business as a series of processes that all run and work together and produce results, if I don't like the results that are being achieved, then I can change the process and therefore improve those results. I can alleviate frustrations or issues that I have by implementing a process. So it's another mindset, and it's a great mindset to learn because it gives you a level of control that you may not have had before. So the 4 key functions, as we've titled them, are called guiding the business, getting the business, running the business, and doing the business. So I see the 4 right here on the left-hand side, and then I see them also in this folder view. Guiding the business, as we define it, is for processes you use to guide your company and your people. So it's strategic processes, it's employee management processes, it's the processes you use to guide. Getting the business is for all of your advertising, sales, and marketing, strategic marketing processes. So it's the way you get new business in the door. It's the way you generate leads and the way you convert those leads. Once a lead has been converted or generated, then it needs to be those products or services need to be delivered. So this getting the business kind of ends with the conversion of that lead, those processes necessary to do that, and then this function ends. Then we have running the business. Running the business you can consider kind of like the office processes. So this is finance, human resources, administration, IT, all of your computer and software processes. It's what you use to run the company or the office processes. Then lastly, there's doing. Doing is the delivering of your products or services. Once the lead is generated, converted, and then you have to deliver those products and services, this is where doing the business comes in. So this is considered, in other terms, operations, service delivery, production. So first thing I want to say is if you don't like the getting, doing, guiding, running terminology, you can change it just by clicking this right here where it says Edit Function Title. So if I go to Edit Function Title, and I'm in doing the business right now, and I know that because this right here is highlighted, or that folder is highlighted, plus it's highlighted here as well. So here I could just go in and type in operations. I already got that memorized, and then I just hit save. So if you don't like this terminology, it confuses you, then change it to something that works for you. Having said that, try to keep the general themes of the 4 key functions. So try to keep this your fulfillment or your service delivery. Don't change getting to advertising and then running to sales, because then you're going to run out of functions. Remember that we're high level here looking at the 4 key functions, the 4 key areas. Here inside of what used to be called doing the business, and now you can see right here it's called operations. The first thing you're going to notice about my account is that I've got these what are called sub-functions. These are like categories within this function called operations. So I've got one for client service, I have one for production management, I have one for warehouse. So these are the categories for your processes inside of the function. So it's like a big outline, or if you imagine that visual of being in a hot air balloon looking down on your business, it's cut into 4 parts, then you drill down into one of those 4 parts and you see sub areas or sub parts, and then you see the processes that are necessary to get the results of that sub-function or subject area. This is the client service sub-function, and these are all the processes we need to deliver client service. I'm going to go to running the business and show you just another example. So here's running the business. This is the human resource sub-function, and then I've got all of my processes for human resources inside of this sub-function. This is finance, and I've got all of my finance processes, financial management. So the purpose of these sub-functions is just to help you organize your processes, and in some ways it helps you to identify the processes, because if you think to yourself, what do I need for human resources, then you can start to think about, well, what is the work that is involved with that? Right here, next to Edit Function Title, this is how you control the sub-functions. So I'm going to hit the drop-down here. If I want to create a sub-function, I hit Create. I just type in the name of that sub-function, and then I just hit Save. They go from top to bottom, so this sub-function, I'm scrolling down all the way here, it's right down here. If I want to delete a sub-function, I choose Delete. If I want to edit a title of one that already exists, I choose Edit. Really simple and straightforward. Another technique you can use here just to be able to see this more clearly is you can go all the way to the right here and hit where it says Collapse Expand. So now I'm just seeing all my sub-functions here. So if you've got your sub-functions already built, you've got a long list of processes, and you're tired of like scrolling through them all the time, just collapse it, and now I'm seeing just the sub-functions. And then if I hit this one, it's going to open and just show me what's inside of this sub-function. I can also reorder sub-functions by dragging and dropping. So if I want IT to be at the top here, then I just click it and it drags to the top. If you have, I'm just going to hit this Collapse Expand again. If you have sub-functions that have a lot of processes in them and you're trying to reorder them by dragging them up and down, if I expand this, you can see how hard that could be because I've got to drag up, 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 up all the way, and then I see it up here. Much easier way is just to collapse and then go here and reorder like this. The processes are also drag and drop. So if this one looks like it's in the wrong sub-function, because employee warnings is not necessarily a part of finance, I could decide that I want to put this in human resources just by dragging it up here to human resources and letting go. Or I could decide that I want to move it to an entirely different function. So let's say that I don't want this to be inside of running the business at all. I really think it's a management process that I want over here. All you have to do is take this and drag it on top of the key function you want to move it into, let go, Now TouchStone's asking me which sub-function do you want this to go into inside of guiding the business. So I choose employee management and then I hit move. So now that process is gone from running the business and now it is in guiding the business. So you can move processes around just by dragging and dropping within one sub-function like this one, or from one sub-function to another, or you can take it completely out of a key function and move it into another. 9 times out of 10, if you're wondering how to reorder something, it's always drag and drop. After sub-functions, if you go to the right here again, this is how you add processes. So if I click process and go create, now this is where I put in the name of the process. And then right here is how I tell TouchStone which sub-function to put it in. So here I put in the name of the process. And then here I hit the drop down. TouchStone's asking me where do you want it on the 4 key functions. What sub-function I mean. I choose the sub-function, I hit save. So really easy to add processes. Right here, processes create, that's how you add them. If you want to delete a process, also easy. I just hit delete. Now I hit the drop down here and I'm going to see a list of all my processes that are in this function. So remember, we're in running the business. So I see all of these in alphabetical order. I would go to the process that I want to delete and then I hit delete. Only administrators can delete things. So when you set your employees up in TouchStone, even if you make them create users, which means that they can add processes to their job description, they can add work plans, they can add content, but they won't be able to delete anything. So that's just a safety net to make sure that only administrators are the ones that delete or can delete. Right to the right of this process button, you see our library. So this is how you gain access to the library. The libraries are a set of pre-built processes that you can download into your account. So we have 2 libraries currently. There's the general process library, which has been around since the beginning, and then we've added this virtual office processes. If I click the general process library, here's where you can see a list of the processes that are available in the library. I'm inside of running the business right now, so I'm only seeing processes that are related to running the business. So these are going to be human resource, finance, administrative processes. So every function has its own library. So make sure you go to every function and view the library. If I want to add a process from the library, I find it on the list. I click this little check mark. If the process is grayed out like this one is, it means it's already in my account. So the TouchStone doesn't let you add duplicates from the library. So click this little flag up here. I can put it in the correct sub-function. You can always drag and drop it if you make a mistake here, but this allows you to point that process directly to the sub-function. Then I just hit copy, and then TouchStone adds the process. It'll appear on the bottom of the sub-function or the list that you've added to. This is a good question that I'm going to answer because I was going to say this anyway. Someone's asking about the color coding and the little P's. The color coding shows you basically the completion of the process. So this process right here is blue, and when I click on it, all that means is that it's got something in it. So if a process is blue, you know it's got some content in it. Either you have added that content, so you built a work plan like this one, and then TouchStone automatically turns it blue, or you've downloaded it from the library and it's blue, letting you know it has some content in it. So this is just a work plan, step-by-step, or how to handle it when employees show up late. Once you're finished with a process, so you've decided, I built this work plan, this is great, it's good to go, then you could fill this little box in that says process documentation completed. And then when I go back here to the 4 functions, then this process is black now. So this allows you to see the completion or the state of the process. I'm going to go to another key function here to see if I can find a red one. When a process is red, I'm going to scroll down here and see if I see one like this one. That means there's nothing in it. So if I click this red process and then you look inside this process, there's no work plans or checklists or anything in it. This is what it looks like when it's not been started yet. So red means there's nothing in this process, it's just a title. Blue means there's something in it, somebody started to document it, and then black means you've finished it. When you turn a process black, like this one say, you can always go and unmark it as complete. So if I mark the sales follow-up process as complete and then I decide I want to change it, it's not good enough, I want to add something to it, I can uncheck it temporarily, and then TouchStone turns the process blue again, and then when I'm finished with it again, then I can turn it back black. So the turning black of the process is completely, it's manual, you decide. Another feature that you'll see in the 4 key functions is those little P's, which means the process has been made public. And you do that by clicking this little icon here that says make process public and available to all users. So if I go to the dashboard here, you see this area to the left or to the right called public. These processes have been marked as public, so someone has checked off that little public button and put them in the public folder. What that means is they're available to everybody who has access to TouchStone. So normally inside of TouchStone, when you give someone access, you're going to give them access to their job description, their box on the org chart. Like I have access to this position, which is a box on the org chart. That gives me access to all the processes on this job description. If Mary was to log in here, she's going to have access to all the processes on the bookkeeper's job description, but she's not going to be able to see the customer service processes or my processes. She only sees what's on her job description. But any process that's been made public, everybody sees. Doesn't matter whose job description it's on. In fact, it shouldn't be on anybody's job description if it's in the public folder because it's available to everyone here. So make processes public that are company-wide information. So they could be HR things like the employee handbook or how to request a vacation or what happens when you get fired, or safety and security things like emergencies and injuries, employee satisfaction surveys. That's everybody fills those out at one point during the year. Strategic things like the management philosophy or even the business's vision or strategic target. Time management. If you have like company-wide meetings where you're doing company-wide trainings, you can take the information from those trainings, load it into TouchStone and make it a public process. And then if anyone wants to ever review those things, they can see them. It saves a lot of time to have HR things here in the public area because if somebody needs a form or a document or they want to change their W-2 or anything like that, if you make it all public, then nobody is saying, where is that? Where is that? It saves everybody time in the end when it's right here. Also, like software trainings for software that everybody uses, like here's CRM how-tos. So everybody uses the CRM, everybody needs to be trained in that. People have questions about how to add a lead, how to do this or that. They can always go here and find that, the answer to that. When somebody selects something from the public folder, it opens it in read-only view. So if I go here like to this one, employee satisfaction surveys, now I can see these documents, the surveys that have been completed or created in this process. And if I click one of them, now I can fill this survey out. And then I can save it, and it date and time stamps it and saves a copy of this back to TouchStone. Now, just like in the dashboard, if I complete a process like this in the public folder or area, the only people who can see what I've completed here are me and my manager. So even though it's public, It doesn't mean when someone goes in and completes something inside of it that everybody can see it. The only thing everybody can see is the content. Only me and my manager can see how I filled the form out. And we see that by running a report here. So there's going to be more about the public folder as we get further into the training sessions. But the thing to remember in terms of the 4 key functions is you click the process to make the process public, and then once it's been made public, you see it's public with these little P's. So let's talk about some methodologies for creating your 4 key functions, so ways of approaching it. The first thing I think is good to do when you start in on your 4 key functions, or if you've had your TouchStone account for a while and you want to go in and clean it up, the best thing to do is to start one function at a time and to first focus on the sub-functions. So I'm going to collapse this so you can see what I mean. So if I was going to work on running the business, I would first make sure that I've got my sub-functions right here, that I like them. Inside of running the business, sub-functions that are typical are going to be human resources. I think HR is always a sub-function that I would normally see in running. IT, another one. Finance or bookkeeping. Financial management. All this does is kind of break these up into 2 more succinct categories. So here under financial management, you may have higher level finance processes. If you want to keep it simple, just have one finance sub-function and put all the processes for finance under that. And then administration. So these 5 or 4, if you combine these 2, are pretty typical inside of running the business. Doesn't mean you couldn't have more, but these are generally the ones that I would see. And from industry to industry, it's pretty boilerplate in this function anyway. Most businesses need these 5 types of things or processes. Sometimes, depending on your business, you may have a compliance, or sometimes businesses who have a lot of regulation may have a legal sub-function. But other than that, these are normally the ones that I would see. So first approach to this, define your sub-functions or make sure that they're right. In the end, the purpose of the sub-functions is to help you organize your processes, and that's it. In getting the business, these are the sub-functions I would normally see. Sales, so how you convert leads. Advertising, how you would generate leads. Marketing strategy, so what are the strategic things, the creating of a marketing plan, the creating of an advertising plan, analyzing your target markets, so any strategic things you do. You could have a sales management, where these are processes just related to the management of sales, like running key indicator reports. And then if you're a production company or a construction company, you may have estimating, which is sometimes considered a sales thing. So generally, these are the types of sub-functions I would see, and I would expect that you would have something similar inside of each of your accounts, irregardless of your industry. Sales, lead generation, sales management. Could just be these 3. Could be sales, advertising, marketing strategy, and that may be all that you have. Inside of guiding the business, and I'm just going to collapse this again, these would typically be the 5 that I would see. So this is a good question. I'm just going to stop and answer this. Someone's asking if they can get a copy of these. Inside of the Resource Center, which you access over here through this button, if you search sub-functions inside the Resource Center, you'll see what I'm saying. It'll show you typical sub-functions inside of each of the 4 key functions. Having said that, if you go there and you're still confused or want help, just send us a message and someone will get on the phone with you and help you. So here inside of guiding the business, definitely employee management. So this is overall employee management. These are processes that are for every employee. It's not just for the sales department or not just for the office staff. It's all employees. Strategy is strategic sub-function, definitely. These are like the businesses for business strategy. You can have a key indicators one. Sometimes key indicators could just be here under employee management. So you can see these are things like key performance indicators in general, key performance indicators for sales. If you'd like to see these isolated, you can put that in as a sub-function. Training, so these are all the training processes. And then board of directors and meetings. So these are processes related to how the board operates if you have a board of directors. So again, just like running and guiding is pretty boilerplate. I don't care what industry you're in, you're going to have you should have sub-functions that are somewhat similar to these. Inside of operations, this is where it gets specific based on industry. So I'm just going to collapse this again. So think about your operations, the industry that you're in. What are some good categories within your operations? So operations starts, or doing the business starts, after a sale has been made. Sale's been made, now we shift to client fulfillment. So the delivering of your products or services. So define your sub-functions. If you, most businesses would have a client service or customer service processes. These would be things like, complaints and employee appreciation, entering or customer satisfaction. If you're a production company, you produce something, you may have production management or service management. You have a warehouse, you distribute something, maybe you have a warehouse, service delivery. You deal with materials, you could have material control, shipping and receiving, things like that. So think about the industry you're in and what good categories would be. After you've defined the sub-functions, the next step is to start to list out your processes. If you're starting brand new with this, what I would suggest that you do is go to the library first. So go to the library here, go to general processes, and look through these processes and decide which ones you think would be useful for you. So up here at the top, if I hit this drop down, these are all my sub-functions. So a good way to approach the library is to go one sub-function at a time. So you might start with client service or customer service, and then look at the processes here and say, okay, which ones do I think would work for me? Well, client appreciation, I like that one. So choose everything that you think is customer service related. Now you could go and click them all off at one time and hit copy, but then you just need to drag and drop them into the right sub-functions. This is just another way to do it where you're focusing one sub-function at a time. So you choose everything related to client service that you think you like from the library, you hit copy, you add those, then you go back, library, again, now I'm going to think production management. What in here do I want for production management? Now here with library processes, guiding, getting, and running you're going to find a lot of processes in there that work for you, because it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you need those things typically. Here in operations or doing the business, you may not find a whole lot that are specifically relevant to your industry. So if you're finding less here, it's going to probably be more in the client service area or customer service. But in these three, you're going to find a lot. So first step, define your sub-functions. Second step, go to the library and download the processes you want. After you've downloaded the library processes, and this is an important step, so for those of you who have already done step 1 and 2, like you've already downloaded library processes, you've had your account for a while, you've been working on this already, after you've downloaded the library processes, and for those of you who haven't done this yet, go to those processes and look at them before you add anything else. After you do the library processes, and I would do this one sub-function at a time. So I went here to doing the business, I downloaded these 2 processes, now I'm going to look at them, and I'm going to look at them and I'm going to decide, is this something that I'm going to use? When you look at the title of a library process, once you downloaded it and look at it, you might decide this is not what I thought it was, I'm not going to use this. Or on the other hand, you may look at it and say, oh, this is great, let's keep it. I can edit and change this and make it my own, and it's going to get me a great head start. If that's what you think when you look at it, then keep it. On the other hand, if you look at it and you think, this is so off track from what I thought it was, or it's going to take more time for me to edit this and make it my own than it would be just to start from scratch, or you look at it and say, boy, this is a good idea, but I just do not have time for this right now, then I would suggest you delete it. So look at it means go through the work plan, scripts, checklists, decide if you want to keep it or not. And that decision may be based on the fact that it doesn't work for you, or I think what is more prominent is that people can decide this isn't something I'm going to use right now. I like it, but not right now. Then if that's the case, go processes, delete, hit the drop down, find the process you want to delete, and then hit delete. If you delete a library process, it puts it back into the library. So TouchStone puts it back into the library. So if I go back here to general, you can see it's right here again. So delete the library processes, definitely. One of the typical things that I'll see when I'm reviewing an account for someone is you've downloaded a ton of library processes and they're just kind of sitting there. It's not that you don't want to use them, it's just it's too much right now. So clean up your 4 key functions by getting rid of library processes that aren't a priority right now or you're not going to use. Once you've done that, cleaned up the library processes, and again, I think it's easier to do it one function at a time, because if you download library processes for all 4 of these, you're super excited, you got them all in there, now you got to go back and clean them all up. Just do it one at a time. Download them for doing, then go and look at them, clean them up, then go on to running and do the next thing. So once you're happy with your library process situation, then start filling in the blanks. Decide what's missing. So I would look at these lists, my sub-functions, and you could collapse if you've got a lot of processes and just go one at a time. Hit client service, look at these processes, and ask yourself what's missing. Sometimes you, depending on the type of business you're in, you can flow chart it out. You're not going to flow chart it, but you can go from one key result to the next. So what I mean is, here I can start with getting the business, and I can say, okay, these are the ways that we generate leads. Once a lead is generated, what happens next? So we've generated all these leads. These leads are calling in and leaving messages, or they're sending emails, or they're putting a request through our website. What are all the ways that these leads are coming in? Then I need a process for maybe lead qualification. So how to qualify those leads. Once a lead is qualified, then what happens next to that lead? Is all that information entered into our CRM? And then once that happens, what happens next? Do we have a first appointment? So you can kind of flow your way through it just by thinking of the steps or the key processes that happen from the beginning all the way to the end. Once a sale has been made, or the client or the lead says no, they say no, they go into follow-up, the sale has been made, then maybe a process goes to running the business here where they're entered into your billing system, and then all that starts, and then they go to operations next where the fulfillment begins. So sometimes that helps to kind of piece your way through it by thinking what happens next. Another way to do it is just to simply put your team together, if that makes sense, and think, what do we do here? So what do we want to accomplish in client service? What are the key things that happen? When you're identifying your processes in this way, think less is better. More is not better. Less is better. You can always add things later, so try to identify maybe the top 20% of what happens. Anything else can come later. If you put too much in the beginning, then it all starts to feel really overwhelming. So less is better. When you're putting in your process titles, think of normal naming conventions. So you see here, I've got customer complaints. 2 words. It's a title. Each word has a capital letter. So this is a normal naming convention. Some people, just because it's personal preference, like things all caps. But that's not a normal naming convention. So the issue with that is one person might add them in all caps and the other person's all lowercase. So think about what your normal naming convention is going to be. And I would suggest keep it what it normally is. You're going to download library processes here, and they are in this fashion, but keep it one way or the other. Think of it as a title: customer complaints, reputation monitoring, customer satisfaction, scheduling. So these are titles. They're not sentences or phrases. If I click this customer complaint process, this is a phrase, or what we call the objective of the process. Resolve and learn from each customer complaint through efficient follow-up and distribution of information. Sometimes when I'm looking at people's accounts, this is the title. Resolve and learn from each customer complaint. Like, that's the title. So if anybody's done it like this, then correct that. Just think about, what is the name of this? What is the title of this? And then put that in as the title here. And then if they do have a sentence or a phrase like this one, make that the objective. You're going to see really quickly, just by glancing through your 4 key functions, if you've had TouchStone for a while, if people are making this mistake. So it should be 2 or 3 words at the most. Also, when you're titling things, think of the subject, not the verb or the adjective. I wouldn't call this satisfying customers. I would call it customer satisfaction. I wouldn't call this appreciate customers. You call it customer appreciation. And the reason is, when I'm trying to find something, I'm going to think the subject first, and I'm going to think the adjective or the verb later. So when you're searching, you're going to think subject first. There is a technique to deciding what is a process and what is a tool inside of a process. So let's talk about that just for a minute. So I'm going to go to running the business here. So if you think about the 4 functions hierarchy, we've got the 4 main areas up here. These are big, broad subjects. Then we drill down into sub-functions or sub-areas, like human resources, for example. And then we see processes that are necessary for that particular subject, so everything I need for human resources. Then when I select that process, I'm seeing everything necessary to do employee onboarding here inside this process. So we've got preparing for a new employee, we've got the first day of training, what happens in 30 days, 60 days, with the result of all of this being create a welcoming work environment, fully equipped with workspace, and clear training schedule for new employees. That's the result of onboarding. Everything I need to do employee onboarding is inside of this process. So you can see it from this trail here too. 4 key functions: running, human resources, employee onboarding. And then if we loop down here, we see all the tools, process tools necessary to do onboarding. Now, if I made human resources the key function, you can see the issue with that. It's too narrow. I need something broader. I need the office processes, in which human resources is a piece of that. If I made new employee onboarding the sub-function instead of human resources, well, that again is too narrow, because human resources is a big area of which employee onboarding is a piece of. In addition, if I made a process called new employee preparation or first day training, that again can be too narrow, because inside of a new employee onboarding, everything I need to do that should be here. So let me show you another example, because this is the trickiest part of building your 4 key functions. Let's look at another more straightforward example. Here's finance. Here's accounts payable. So finance is the sub-function. These are all the processes. Accounts payable is a process in finance. If I click accounts payable, everything I need to do accounts payable is all inside this process. How you deposit checks, how you do bank deposits, how do you do invoices, special invoices. Everything I need to know how to pay people is here. So if I had made all of these processes, check deposits, bank deposits, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, other than the fact that it just creates more processes. So if I had all 6 of these processes in the finance subfunction, I'm going to have, and I did that for every process, here in finance, instead of having maybe 10 processes here, I'm going to have 20 or 30 processes. Again, nothing necessarily wrong with that other than the fact that it just makes more, which can sometimes feel even more overwhelming and more confusing. So combine things when you're able to. Put things that are related to this subject called accounts payable all underneath here. Now, another thing that makes this tricky is you want to remember that when you're linking a process to a job description, like you assign accountability of this process, you're linking the whole process, not work plans within it, the whole process. So if you do this accounts payable like this, for example, and there's one employee who does these 3 things and the other that does these 3 things, well, this process accounts payable will have to be linked to both of their job descriptions, which isn't a huge deal. The only time it becomes a big deal is when it's confidential how these 3 things are done versus how these 3 things are done. And only the controller can know these things, whereas the bookkeeper can't know these things. Well, if that's the case, then you got to break it apart and make it 2 processes. But other than that, unless that's the situation, it's better to combine like results, combine things that are related, because it makes it more compact, it makes it easier to find things. I know everything I need for accounts payable is right here. So it's not always as complicated as this, because sometimes processes just have one work plan. I mean, sometimes it's as simple as that. But there are other times when there are multiple things that happen or multiple workflows within a process. This is a good question. So everything you're seeing in my account is from the library. So I don't have to send you copies of what you're seeing here for the person who's asking that. Everything you're seeing here has come from the library here in one of the key functions. So you can, anything you're seeing here, just go into, think about what subject it is. Like I'm in running the business here, so if this onboarding process is something you want, well, it's in the running the business library. And then you can go to the library and download it. If you can't find something that you think is in the library, but you're looking around, you can't find it, just send us a message and I'll point you to where it is, or somebody will. All right. So this is a good question too. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this when we get to the process tools page, but someone's asking if you have combined things and you want to make them 2, I'm paraphrasing, but you want to make it 2 separate processes instead of 1. Okay, so let's say this new employee onboarding, I've decided that I want to make these 2 work plans inside of one process and these 2 in another, but I have it all in one now. All you do is go to the work plan, and then first of all, you have to make the second process title. So go add process, make the second title, and then go to that tool you want to move, the work plan, and you hit this icon right here. It's called Move Process Tool. Then you're going to hit the drop down here. These are all my sub-functions. So I go to the sub-function that has the process in it that I want to move, or that I want to move it to, and then I choose that process, and then I hit save. So that's how you pull it apart. If I went too fast, I'm running out of time, so I'm talking a little fast. If that was too fast, go to the Resource Center and just search moving a process, and there's a step-by-step for it. So I want to end with, for those of you who haven't seen this already, I want to end with some processes in the library that are relatively recent to the library. And they're these 2 in particular. I'm just going to drag this down so people can see it. So I'm in the guiding the business function. I'm going to click this again. So here in guiding, if you go library, you hit the drop down here, and this time you go to the virtual office processes. Virtual office processes, you're going to see 3 processes here. And these are some pretty straightforward basic processes that I think are really tried and true to managing employees and yourself when you can't look each other in the eyes every day. These aren't anything that's completely different than maybe what you would learn from Stephen Covey or basic time management. But what makes them cool is that you can use them right inside of TouchStone. So this daily huddle one is about having a daily meeting where you get together over Zoom and you kind of talk about what's happening that day. These two are the ones that I'm going to focus on. So this one is called Daily Planning. And I'm just going to click this and show you. So inside of these two processes, we have a work plan. And the work plan just goes through a step-by-step of how to do daily planning. I think daily planning is a great thing to start to think about, not just for employees who need to have a plan for what they do that day, but for a manager. So a lot of times, things we ask people to do as managers, if you manage employees, is not necessarily for them. It's for management purposes. It's for the manager being able to understand the results that employee is achieving without having to watch them do it, without having to micromanage them. So this needs to be explained to employees sometimes, that I'm not asking you to do a daily plan because I think you need it. It's more because I need to be able to communicate what you're doing and monitor what you're doing without having to ask you every day. So this is a step-by-step for the daily planning, and then these are some tools that can be used. And I'm going to show you these on the dashboard, so I'm not going to click on them here. And then secondly is basic time logs. So a lot of us do time logs just for productivity purposes or tracking, being able to allocate when work is done. But again, this has this this work plan, which describes it. It has this great little screenshot. And then it's got a custom form, which is the time log. So let me show you here quickly how these are used. So the employee goes to the dashboard here. They click on their control panel. Those processes need to be downloaded from the library and linked to their job description, of course. And then when I go here, I see them. You can even create a little group here called time management. So here under daily planning, I would click on this daily plan. Then you could look through these and decide which one you want to use. A lot of times the library processes will just give you options. So in the end, you might just have one thing here. Go to the daily plan and then fill it out. This can all be changed. All you have to do is go to the 4 key functions to that process and change it. And then when somebody clicks on this, it makes a copy of it and it's changed to what you want these titles to be. Why I think this is so great for management purposes is I can look at one of my employees' calendars and I can see their appointments, but I don't see anything else. So with a plan like this, they can put in high priority things that they're working on, things I've asked them to do, projects they're working on. Then they can fill in their appointments here into the schedule, which I could see from their calendar. I understand that, but that's not the point. Here I see them, and then I see when they're going to do all these other things. So this is just Covey 101. You just sit down and you think, what am I going to do today? That's what the employee does. These are my appointments. These are my high priority tasks or objectives. These are the things my manager asked me to do. These are the times of the day I'm going to do them in, put my lunch in there, whatever else, and then I've got a schedule for the day. This takes 10 minutes. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of an effort to ask employees to do this. They fill this out, then they save it. Date and time stamps it. Now it's saved back to TouchStone. If my manager now wants to look at this after I've done it for the day, all they do is go and run a report of me, and then they can see this. Something that goes along with a daily plan is time logs. So the daily plan is what I hope happens. The time logs are what actually happened. So if you go to the daily time logs, same idea. The employee can read the work plan here, which describes exactly how to fill out the time logs. They go here to this custom form. And again, this can all be changed. You can change these titles if you want, and you edit it over here on the 4 key functions or through the 4 key functions. So same thing here. This is what I did this morning. So task 1, 2, every half an hour, every hour, they just jot down what they did. At the end of the day, they save it. Or they can save it throughout the day. And then, again, it's saved back to TouchStone. The manager can go here to reports, go management review. At the end of every day, they can hit run report for that employee or a group of employees, and you see the daily plan and you see the time logs. It's all for management purposes. This just lets you know, what did your employees accomplish that day? What did they spend their time doing? If there are issues, they're being interrupted, there's lack of efficiency, they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing, like because they feel like they have to do them because someone else dropped the ball, you're going to have a lens into this like you didn't have before, and it really helps when people are working from home. So next week, we're going to talk about the organization chart. We're going to talk about organizational strategy, so how to build a good departmental-focused organizational plan. So it's not just how to technically use the org chart. I'm going to talk a lot about how to create efficiencies within your company, how to deal with people dependency, how to deal with cross-training, how to deal with lack of accountability, how to plan for the future growth. So all of this is organizational strategy, and that's going to be next week.